Hello, friends. Thanks again for joining me on Extraordinary Connection, a daily devotion website put on by the people of the Michigan Area Conference of the United Methodist Church. My name is Pastor Scott, and I'm glad you're here. It's been a while since I've done a conglomerate devotion, one that features multiple people all around a similar theme. The last one I did was on the top 5 contributions made during a quarantine. So if you haven't watched it yet, you can find it on my YouTube page, or even better, go to extraordinaryconnection.org, click on the category Pastor Scott, and scroll back until you find that video. Today, I want to look at 4 different people who gave it all away. 4 people who thought humanity was more important than wealth and riches. 4 people who were good stewards of their God-given talents. These are in no particular order, so if one person's contribution speaks more to you than another, let me know in the comments. Number 4 is the man and company who saved 1 million lives. If you've ever ridden in a car manufactured in the 1950s, do you remember the seatbelts they had? They only went across the lap. So when a car was in a crash, the bottom half of the body stayed belted in place, but the top half was flung forward. There's nothing to stop the person from crashing into the dashboard or steering wheel, or in real extreme cases, being flung out the windshield. So enter Nils Bohlin. Nils was an engineer at Volvo who had worked prior in the aerospace industry, and he recognized the problem with seatbelts at the time. So borrowing from his experience working in aerospace, Nils created a new seatbelt design for cars. A seatbelt that had 3 points of protection over the shoulder and across the lap. A design that is way more effective and is the one we still use today. Together, Nils and Volvo decided the invention was too important to patent in order to make a profit. So they gave the rights away so any manufacturer could use the design, and in turn, they helped save 1 million lives in car crashes. Number 3 is Tim Berners-Lee. Tim worked for a research group in Geneva called CERN and realized that there wasn't a convenient way to share information between computers. Each type of computer was proprietary, so sharing data, sharing notes, sharing anything was cumbersome and required lots of formatting and data changes. So he started tinkering on his own, and he came up with an idea called the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which is a fancy way of a universal way to share data. And he also wrote a new common language for the computers to work inside of that protocol called the Hypertext Markup Language. And he did a first application to read and display the language called a browser. Tim's invention was received by other engineers and scientists as a brilliant idea, and they began asking how could they start to use his invention. So Tim convinced CERN to not try and monetize the idea of HTML and instead give it to the world. So think of it. If it wasn't for Tim and CERN's gift to the world, you wouldn't be viewing this video today on the web. Number 2 is Frederick Banting. Frederick always wanted to be a doctor, but his parents wanted him to be a pastor. Somehow he convinced them that his true passion was medicine, and he graduated from the University of Toronto. While practicing medicine, he also taught on the side as a professor. He was preparing for a lecture on the pancreas, and as he always did, he overprepared. He read article after article on the pancreas, and some other research got him thinking. Why would patients with ill pancreases, pancreas, whatever the plural is, or have pancreatic stones develop the disease diabetes? He observed that something was happening to the islet cells in the pancreas. When they were blocked or damaged, the patient's blood sugar would also be impacted. So he did a series of experiments trying to create a serum extracted from healthy islet cells. He called his serum isletin. But after further research and testing, the name of the serum got changed to what we know today as insulin. Banting and his co-researchers, James Collip and Charles Best, decided to sell the patent for $1 to the University of Toronto because something so impactful shouldn't be monetized. They wanted everyone who needed it to be able to afford it. And as you know, sadly, that didn't last. Why is insulin so expensive now? If you know, let me know. Was it a choice from the University of Toronto? Are pharmaceuticals monetizing the extraction process and that's what makes it so expensive? I don't know what happened. But the last of our four is Jonas Salk. Jonas Salk was a virologist by trade, and a fun Michigan fact for you, he did his postgraduate work at the University of Michigan, studying influenza during the 1940s. Now, in the 1940s, there was also another disease rampaging the United States called polio. Because polio was so infectious, Salk wanted to research it. He received funding from a group called the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis, or as we know them today, the March of Dimes. And as you guessed, Jonas was successful in testing and creating a vaccine for the polio virus. By 1955, children were lined up to receive their polio vaccine. And because of Jonas's work on the vaccine, coupled with the cause championed by Rotary International, we have today almost eradicated the polio virus from the entire world. Such a vaccine would have made Jonas billions, but he gave it away saying there is no patent. How could you patent the sun? Each of these men chose humanity over profit. Each of these men dedicated their lives to making some corner of our world better for everyone. Each one gave generously of their time, their talents, and their potential riches to make things better for you and me. My question this morning is, how are you making the world a little better place? Yes, I get it. You probably aren't in a lab making a vaccine for disease, or maybe you aren't an engineer able to design a new product. But you have been given gifts and talents and passions from God. How are you using those gifts and talents to bring love into the world? Are you a good steward of the gifts you've been given? Jesus told a parable about a master who gave talents to 3 of his servants. One got 5 talents, one 2, and the other one just 1 talent. A talent is a weight measurement, so perhaps it was a talent of gold or silver or bronze. Well, you know the parable. 2 of the servants took their talents, invested them, used them, and made a profit for their master. And they were rewarded with the praise, "Well done, good and faithful servant." The servant who only received 1 talent, well, he buried his. And when the master came back, he wasn't too happy. If you have time, you can read the parable in Matthew 25. You too have been given talents by God. Are you using them? Or are you burying them? Are you taking your passion for cooking or music or talking and finding ways to share them with others in love? Are you taking your extra time that you have right now to check on others in your life or to develop those passions further? Imagine if we all shared our talents as freely as the men in today's devotion did. But it won't happen until each one of us gets started. So what are you waiting for? Until next time, I'll see you at extraordinaryconnection.org.